Jacob here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Gatac Railen. Very much an interesting and mostly unique ship, the first somewhat regular cargo hauler, other than that of the merchantman, to an extent of course. The Railen initially reminded me of the Tristan. This is an EVE Online ship used in a very particular gameplay style most commonly. The Railen was first announced to the verse from a new alien manufacturer called Gatac, somewhat maybe pronounced correctly. Gatac is, of course, a Xi'an-based manufacturer, also probably not pronounced correctly. Technically speaking, this was first announced at CitizenCon 2019, and was of course revealed for Alien Week 2021. I've researched the Gatac Railen a decent amount, and so what I say here is backed by research. What I don't mention here either means there is no evidence of it, or I simply didn't find this research, or didn't feel the need to mention it. As always, see the chapters for whatever you are interested in, not to mention my own dose of speculation and theories, as always. However, for now, let's roll the intro. Before I continue with the rest of the video, I want to give a shout out to my subscriber base for always being around from what I feel is effectively still the beginning. Thank you. Do please consider joining my Discord server, linked at the top of the description, and chatting to myself and our small developing community present there. People's kind words and general feedback are super motivating for me personally, and so let's continue. As all ships I currently overview are concept ships, not only can you not fly them as of the upload date of this video, you also can't buy them from the pledge store whenever you wish. This means you'd have to buy this from the grey market, should you be looking to acquire one at short notice. However, conveniently, Alien Week is upon us, depending on exactly when this video is uploaded. On the other hand, the problem I have with Alien Week is that insurance deals are always very short durations, typically 6 months. Other than perhaps the alien packs, which are quite expensive. And then not to mention just looking at the Banu Merchantman history here, you can see when Alien Week has occurred and when it's been Fleet Week, etc. On that note, throw me a comment if you're interested in me revisiting the Merchantman, given that there was a lot more details in that recently. If you do so happen to obtain a Railen, the original war bond price was 200 USD. This thankfully hasn't increased for this Alien Week. However, with store credit, you can pick this up still for 225 USD. Perhaps the Railen price will increase for IAE, maybe? I was somewhat expecting a price increase for this Alien Week, however this hasn't occurred. The current loaners for the Railen are the Constellation Taurus, which makes sense, and the Cartwall. These loaners are a pretty good deal, in all honesty, although it is a cargo ship, and the Taurus barely holds half that of the Railen. Perhaps the Starfarer might have been a reasonable replacement in that regard, although it will likely be in the same category as the Taurus with that in mind, so this still seems fair as a loaner. The Cartwall is of course for Arena Commander, thanks to those for pointing that out in my last video. When the Gatac Railen was first shown, I believe Alien Week last year, I personally found it to be an impressive ship. The Gatac Railen is currently white box finished, clearly shown in the Inside Star Citizen episode, released around about this time last year. I couldn't help but realise it does share some resemblance with the Tristan from EVE Online. It's not quite on the same level as the Vulture and the Venture. The Tristan is a completely different ship in almost every way. On the other hand, this design does suit that of an Xi'an-based manufacturer, in my mind. It does kind of look very Tron as well, let's be honest. Humanity within the game has its own cargo ships, of course. Ships such as the various Freelancers, the RSI Taurus, and of course the various Hull series ships. Of course, aliens would need the same logistical and industrial ships in their own lineup, and so the Railen was introduced as a result of that. With more to come in the near future, of course. The Railen has a number of things going for it. For one, this is a Xi'an-based manufacturer. Their technology regarding thrusters and Klevv is unmatched in the verse. Not to mention they are superior from a technological standpoint, over humans. With this in mind, this ship should be relatively maneuverable and relatively fast. It won't be the fastest, of course, but it'll beat the Hull B in this regard for sure. Another way in which it beats the Hull B is in regards to its cargo pods. These triangular pods, which are clearly visible on the ship in almost all of these images, is where the cargo is obviously stored. These triangular pods offer some protection to its contents, however, a fully enclosed cargo bay would of course provide much more protection for cargo. In addition, much like the Hull series, the shields will also cover the cargo pods, as you'd typically expect, given that the cargo pods are much more integrated into the shape of the ship, more so than that of the larger Hull series ships. Going back to the cargo pods, the triangular cargo pods are supposedly going to fit the standard cargo boxes. The slight problem I have with this is that you'd not be able to fill the triangle with squares, and so an inefficiency such as this can occasionally bother people somewhat. So, I mean, it bothers me slightly, but it's not a big deal, let's be honest. On that same subject, the triangles do make up a large amount of the general shapes throughout the ship. I noticed generally speaking, there is no perfect square or rectangle anywhere from what I can see. The only exception to this is the occasional circle, where this is more significantly present in the turrets on either side of the ship. Additionally, this circular feature is present on the bridge for the pilot and co-pilot seat. Moving on to components. Now, there are a few additional components present here. At the very least, all three of these additional components are technically going to be on all ships, those being scanners, shield emitters, and life support systems, as you'd expect. The components on the Railen include a medium radar, scanner, computer, one large power plant, two large coolers and shield generators, one large shield emitter, one medium life support, two medium fuel intakes and fuel tanks, and finally a medium quantum drive, jump drive, and quantum fuel tank. After looking at these stats and components, I couldn't help but think that a single medium quantum fuel tank might not be enough, considering the effort put into the living quarters, and that this ship is meant to be for the long haul, so to speak, compared to its main competition in that of the Hull B. Although the Hull B is technically long range as well, but I feel that the Railen is more so. The ships around the same physical size as the Railen that have an additional medium quantum fuel tank include the Corsair and the Mercury Star Runner. These are perhaps somewhat more justified in comparison. Perhaps 4 small quantum fuel tanks could be a nice balance, although it does have other things going for it, such as weapons, which we'll touch on shortly. What it does have going for it currently is its maneuverability, thrust, and VTOL capabilities, which the Hull B simply won't be able to compete with. Moving on to weapons, the Railen does have a reasonable amount of firepower considering it's a cargo ship. The Railen features 2 size 4 dual mounted turrets on both sides of the ship. Both of these turrets are to be manned. There will be the option, of course, for these to be slaved to the pilot once the computer blades is a functioning mechanic, and this may well be the decent option to use the ship solo once this feature is introduced, of course. Another option would be to hire NPCs, but this is likely further in the future. However, for now, only the pilot has control of the missiles of the ship, of which feature 2 size 4 racks with 16 size 1 missiles between them. This seems somewhat odd, but okay. Lastly, 2 size 3 racks with 4 size 2 missiles in each. This is an okay damage output overall for the whole of the ship, similar to that of a medium fighter perhaps. However, I'd like to see size 3 missiles in place of the size 1 in the size 4 rack. However, that might mean less missile quantity, I guess. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, the Railen is marketed as a ship which has means to somewhat defend itself, not only in its weapons but in maneuverability, as we mentioned before, which all plays a part in keeping the cargo safe to somewhat offset the somewhat vulnerable cargo. Moving on to the floor plan. The floor plan is a little rough, and there are 2 floor plans. One shown on Inside Star Citizen for its original concept introduction video around about this time last year, and another in the various concept images. Firstly, we can see here how people enter the ship. This is using the renowned Klevv technology that the Xi'an are well known for. This takes us to this section of the ship. Now, this level is effectively dedicated to getting into the ship and then getting elsewhere into the ship. The next level of the ship is the habitation area. You can see the sleeping quarters towards the back here. That seems to only sleep 3 of the 4 crew members. Okay, moving on. This large space here would seem to form the majority of this particular concept image. You can see a clear similarity between the area of the floor plan and said concept image. Moving on to the last level, we have the components room that we enter from the lift. The first thing you'll see upon going to this level is the docking connection. This connects from the back of the ship in this very same room. This is where most of the various components are, as I mentioned briefly. So we're talking your shield generators, your radars, etc. Or just your engineering section, if you like. This then leads to the bridge, where you can sit the entirety of the 4-person crew, should you need to. There are also a few component locations here as well. Now to summarise, CIG have had 2 years effectively to concept and to get it to its white box stage that it's at now, measuring from it being announced but not named during CitizenCon 2019. I don't entirely know how much they normally get done in 2 years, but there are a couple of grey areas about the concept thus far that I'm skeptical about, and others where I think it could have been executed better. These are the areas I want to speculate about. To start, this bottom level to the ship is effectively a level for getting in and out of the ship and to the rest of the ship. This to me isn't necessary. One single lift from the top level to the bottom level and then out of the bottom of the ship is more than sufficient. This curved animation, if you like, that's currently present isn't necessary. On the other hand, this is a signature technology of Xi'an, so this doesn't entirely bother me as much as it potentially could, but again, it's not necessary. Moving to the next level, we are currently missing the bathrooms and kitchen area to this level in the concept floor plan. The current concept images for these areas are much further behind than that of the rest of the concept images. In my opinion, this may be because they don't really know where it's going to go. My theory is that these areas will be through this door, and the other section will be through the opposite door, so of course we're missing 2 sections. With this in mind, I don't expect the final result for these areas, as per these 2 particular concept images, to look like the current images at present. To conclude, it's clear that this ship has had a lot of work to it. Although as mentioned briefly before, it does share some minor similarities from the Tristan of EVE Online. With this in mind, the Railen is clearly its own ship for so many reasons that I've mentioned countless times in this video. What does concern me though is the grey areas of the concept I previously mentioned, and that this ship doesn't seem to have had any work done to it since it was fully revealed at Alien Week last year. With everything in mind, I acquired myself a Railen just some days ago. I may not have done, however, if the price increased. On to other updates. Weekly videos are looking to be going down pretty well, although I will be getting a new job in the second week of July. A similar situation caused a curveball in my upload schedule before, which, sure, might happen again. On the other hand, I will be gaining around an hour to 2 hours every day as a result of less travel time for my new job. So, and not to mention, I'm getting a pay increase, so that's always welcome. Thank you ever so much for watching. Today's video sponsor, as always, is the like button for the almighty YouTube algorithm. That'll of course allow this channel, this community, to grow with your support. Obviously don't forget to comment or subscribe if you haven't already. I generally try to upload, as of right now, monthly, so be sure to check back. My name is Jacob, thank you, and goodbye for now.